What is up, guys? It's your boy GRC. We're coming at you live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's Sunday. It's fun day. My lighting's not picking up, but that is okay. We'll figure that out. We got a lot to talk about today. Me and Sam are kind of jazzed up. A little ADD we get on Sunday, but that's when the passion comes out. We're looking at a couple of things today, and I'm just going to run through them. And of course, it's going to get a little haywire in between, like it always does. But what are we talking about today? I'm going to show a clip from Charles Hoskinson last night's AMA right at the end where he talks about media propaganda. I like to get Sam jazzed up, and I know how to get him. I know exactly how to get him jazzed up, and it's this flipping clip. So we're going to look at that. Then we're going to go over to Hex Tokens channel for a minute, and I want to give a huge shout out to Hex Token, and I'm going to drop all his links below when we get there. I want everyone to make sure they follow that cat, because Sam knows out of my mouth, never do I say someone's better than me at something. I'll just keep it to myself most of the time. If anything, first thing I said is Hex Token's so much better at streaming than me. Such a better streamer, gets his information across. And there's a portion where he talks about Pulsechain future projection. So we'll do two birds with one stone. We'll pamp his channel, and we'll get his video from yesterday. So that'll be really fun. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Xen Crypto. We're going to talk about the Xen Crypto price action, but we're going to mix it into some scaling talk, some Pulsechain talk, some Hex Investment Trust talk too. I want to talk about a lot of these metrics. NFTs, Sam wants to talk about. We've seen the Xen FTs. Sam was talking before the show, collateralizing loans, leverage with NFTs. I think a lot of that stuff's clicking for him. You know, I'm kind of there, but not really. Like it's all been talked about a lot, but it's hard to grasp. And Sam has a good grasp of a lot of those mechanics from other stuff. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're excited, frankly. It's the Lord's Day. So pray, okay? Pray for your mama. Make sure she's good to go. All right, everybody, let's have an amazing show. I'm excited. Let's get it.
You already know what time it is.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting on phone.
Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning.
Ready to take notes.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting on phone.
Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning.
Ready to take notes.
Smoking no blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that just in case. GymRatCrypto sent me to show you the way.
D5 Pro. Yeah.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting on phone.
Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning.
Ready to take notes.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting on phone.
Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning.
Ready to take notes.
You remember about a year ago where I was first getting into crypto? You'd already been in crypto for a little bit of time. And it was almost intense because there were so many cool different things that were happening and so many interesting pieces to learn. It was exciting, right? Because you're growing so quickly. There's like this thing to learn about. How does crypto work? How does hack work? How do blockchains work, right? What is the security things? All these different pieces that were coming together.
It was like Christmas.
Simultaneous. Bro, I am extremely excited right now with what is taking place right now. And this is what I want to do at the end, talk more about AI and like how this is influencing things with like blockchain and stuff. I'm very excited. There's so much stuff happening.
I just got excited again. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be super transparent for 2 seconds. I'll tell you exactly what I'm getting excited about so you can kind of catch a gauge. Because to be honest, I'm usually a few days ahead of most just because I stare at this stuff all day long.
Correct.
I've been watching the heartbeat of Hex fall at a rate for a long time. Just because of the bear market, like Bitcoin, like ETH kind of. I felt a heartbeat reversal. just a pivot, just a kickflip. You know what I mean? Just something. I saw big buyers coming in that had a lot of extra USDC. Okay, I saw a lot in big candles, right? Nothing crazy. $100,000 buys, $300,000 buys, nothing out of this world. But Sam, I saw 1 million hex go up for stake for 10 years yesterday. You know, like that's a lot of money. That's 100 grand. That's gone for 10 years. And that's bullish. Because who would, yes, of course, someone with horrible intentions could probably disown the whole system's like regularity by just like the inside of it. But I don't see why they would ever in a million years mess up such a beautiful thing with only such a small little USDC pool in it. I think Richard was right about a lot of this low liquidity stuff. I think liquidity really tricked everyone out for a long time. And I think he keeps that liquidity at a rate where people can get out and in kind of comfortably, but nothing dramatic can ever happen. To a degree, he has more than that on both of his wrists. We're talking 5 million USD. And I mean, I know that's a lot, like that's like for one person, but when you're an entity in cryptocurrency, the biggest scaling, the biggest, fastest scaling technology ever. That's literally what it's made for. It's interesting to say the least. And I just have been getting excited. I don't know. It's not about money.
No, I don't know if I felt I was paying close attention to Hex, but like for me, Hex is, yes, it's awesome. It's cool. Like I own some, right, etc. But I wasn't really super excited about Hex. It's awesome. It's cool. I like it, right? But I did notice that within you over the last couple of days before the show or post show. But then also I had the same type of, not like the pivot, but just there seems to be a little bit of, you know, maybe the bottom is falling out. I'm not sure what it is. Could be wrong.
I think I can tell you what it is. I think I can nail it. And let's just swing this in. Before we get into Charles, I'll just swing this into a little Pulsechain update from GRC. So, guys, you know I've been launching this since day one. Day one sack on everything. Day 501, I did my first stake for Hex. So that's about 2 years and some change or whatever it is. I think people are starting to understand what's going on, Sam. Actually here, the Shanghai upgrade, V3. We need those things, right? Well, they don't even come into play until May. Right? Now, me, after years, I can figure that out now. It goes that calm brain. I can kind of like work through that information. But there was no one telling me any of these things before. But now I know about the fork. And I know about the I know about the proof of stake upgrade now. And what do you need for proof of stake? They need to be able to take those stakes out. And that's what the Shanghai upgrade is. And that's in May. That's supposed to be in May. Right? We need these things on Pulsechain too. So unless we kind of pivoted from their exact code and did different code in that way, I would just go ahead and say it sounds like we're waiting until at least that mid-year point. And I think maybe the team started to realize this, and maybe we're just looking at kind of doing the same thing over and over again with waiting a long time. But at the end of the day, there is some light at the end of the tunnel because we have to wait for the V3 contract to come up for variable liquidity providing.
I think it was the first person to mention that. I was probably the first person to do it.
Bring up when you mentioned it, because I probably at the time wasn't even.
So like months ago.
Yeah.
The PulseX is the DEX for Pulsechain. Think of like Uniswap for Ethereum. However, Uniswap for Ethereum is V3. And when they came out with V3, they had a license on that for 2 years. So PulseX, Richard has mentioned, is a copy or a fork of V2. V2 is garbage compared to V3.
It's so bad.
So bad. So it's like
I understand why some people like it for like the first week, but it makes no sense.
Right. Like it's like you like your flip phone. That's like what it's like. Would
I
you
like my flip phone for
phone?
throwing it in the garbage after I sell something.
Correct.
Like literally.
This is why you have a real phone, or a phone that is a giant computer that allows you to do so many more things, have way more data, way faster. That's what this is, right? And V2 is like that flip phone, which is cool. You can call, you can text, you can decentralize trade, but it is way less efficient, doesn't give you nearly the same amount of information. And that license, as you were just alluding to, is up. But I believe it's in April or May, which would be perfect. And I've been saying this for months, that Pulsex will be way better with V3. And I'm going to use V3 on Pulsechain because there's going to be a fork. There's going to be a front end over there. I'll just use that front end and not
And
Pulsex.
we teach everyone how to do it anyway. So Rich, come on, bro. Like we're on the same team here. You know how many people I've taught how to liquidity provide, even if it's just with like $500 in the last 3 months? Probably 100, 200, and passively, or like just answering questions, or sometimes in consultation like format where it's a little bit more like someone wants some attention, because it's complicated to a degree, because no one's heard of these information like loops before, the verbiage, a lot of that stuff. But in reality, providing liquidity is simple. And that's usually what I end the conversation with. Guys, this is simple. And they give you a nice little chart. Excuse me. But they give you a nice little chart, and it says both the numbers on the bottom. So you can kind of, once you understand what you're doing, I think it's hard for people to figure out that realm because it costs $13 a transaction. And frankly, most people just won't really want to be getting into all that sauce. Sam, I want to switch it up real quick, but we're going to get back to all this talk. And I want to know in the chat, how are you guys feeling in the chat?
We see a lot of good things here. Hacks might be part of the stock market if things go well. We talked about this yesterday. I don't think that's going to be the case because the stock market's going away, so we wouldn't want that to happen.
What about investment trust?
Investment trust. I need to learn more about the investment trusts.
I can help you with that. I have a clip from last night from Kinetics. You remember Kinetics?
Yes.
Kinetics works. He's working on that, and he was on the Hex. And for everyone that doesn't understand or doesn't know this, there's actually a Hex conference. I've been trying to be rah good times with everyone. It's going on at night. I listened to the whole thing as I was in a light slumber last night. It was amazing. It was fun. All the people. I'm catching the vibes, and that's all I'm trying to like. But I want to get to the freedom real quick.
Okay, so who you want to give us a preview of who this guy is? What's his YouTube channel like? And you actually had some very good things to say.
No, this is Charles.
Okay, Charles.
Think about them, but it's a bit.
So I'm just going to play this for a minute, guys. Everyone take a seat. We need to get logic and reason into our brains ASAP.
Relax. Grab your coffee. Grab a
coffee. And because I think Sam is you're really going to enjoy this. Get a sip of your Joe. He goes in for a minute here, and I might have the timing wrong, so just give me a little. I'm going to let it play from where I had it stopped because I think I might have put it in the right spot. But just, guys, last night, Charles Hoskinson went for a solo AMA, which he does every once in a while. And at the end, he talks about Cardano and all of these things early on. And, I like all those things, but I just don't have enough information on them yet. And if Charles comes on my show, I'll prep for 36 hours on Cardano and know everything probably. So, Charles, come on. Help you, help me. You know what I'm saying? But he spits fire about media propaganda, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I just couldn't get enough. There was too much reason and logic in his words. There was too much. Just too much. Like I was like, this is too reasonable. This is too logical. This is too, where are these guys and how can we put them in a group and how can we vote them in? How do I vote this guy in? I want to vote Charles in. I want Charles to work for the government. I mean, for the, obviously he wouldn't want to do that shit, but you know what I'm saying. So Charles Hoskinson, let's give it a go. Let's see where we're at.
Difficult to actually know what's real and true, and I don't think anybody, regardless of their credentials, are about less damaged in advance, like an asteroid or a comet or something, and it badly damaged in advanced civilization. Problem is 10,000 scatterings of evidence about it. I'm not an archaeologist. I talk about them and think about them, but it's a bit different. That are super Paleolithic, like 10,000 plus year picture, and cash will be banned and CBDCs will be tied to social credit. and a small group of people will have complete control over your money. Don't like it? Use crypto and vote against any politician supporting CBDCs. Hard to do, though.
Just give me a second
you
on the
know, the
timing. It's
process
right
is-
around here, guys. I'm sorry. It's just like he's just working through his comments, then he gets to one and he just gets into it.
And GRC will put the link into the chat if you guys want to watch the full AMA in a few minutes.
Yes, I'll let me put the full link to that in the chat, and shout out to Charles. Biceps if you like Charles in the chat.
It's not dystopian. I mean, it needs to slow the spread to just aren't going to connect money to speech. More about Operation Choke Point. Google it. This is a propaganda. It's really not.
All right, here it is. This is the
After you've
question that
got
gets
some
him going.
training and you spend some time in
So the question is, how do you stay so positive with all that goes on? Is there a trick to dealing with it? So this is what sparked the conversation that really got me excited. And I'm just going to drop us down for a second. I'm going to pull the AMA and then, but listen to this, listen closely here, because guys, as you go about your life, you have to talk to your children, your wife, your colleagues, and none of them are making much sense. And I'm not saying they're stupid, but everyone's in their own world. And if you're a man and a leader, you need to escape everyone else's bullshit and get busy. All right. Our kids need education. They need to go to school somewhere, and we have nowhere for them. Those are real conversations.
It's a great question. How do you stay so positive with all that goes on? Is there a trick to dealing with it? I'm not going to lie, it gets hard. It really does get hard not to become negative and cynical, especially when you see again and again and again people behave in ways that are so just damn insane. After you've gotten some training and you spend some time and really think deeply about the consequences of propaganda, it's really not hard to see when people have been propagandized. So propaganda, and you can look for the symptoms of it, mention polarizing subject XYZ, a person will immediately develop a strong emotional reaction to it, positively or negatively, and have strong opinions that aren't their own. They didn't come up with them. They've been installed in them. And then when you try to show them contrary facts or evidence, they just, no burden of proof is capable of dissuading them. Okay, so there's a video of this guy murdering someone. I know it's made up. It's a deep fake. That's propaganda in a nutshell. We all suffer in some way from it, where mass media is constructed in a way to do that because it gives people power. As long as we hate each other, we can't pay attention to the people running things. It's that simple. All these wedge issues that divide people, at the end of the day, we don't talk about energy. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about education. We don't talk about sustainability. We don't talk about the consequences of globalization.
I'm just going to pause it and move it back for the young guys in here. Young guys, some of you guys might have parents. They might be rich or something like that. You can get your hands on a little something. You better learn this shit or you're going to be effed. I promise, because I'm pretty sharp and Sam's pretty sharp. And there's many ways where we don't make it all the way to this point in our journeys.
Yes.
And there's many things you can avoid. But you have to, me and Sam, everyone that knows me and Sam knows we do not watch the media, period. They don't have to ask. They don't have to ask, Sam.
I don't even own a television. I haven't owned one since 2009.
I have nothing. Ever since I learned from you, did the switch, got all my bills reduced. I have nothing other than my
I want to draw an analogy, right? He was just talking about the propaganda and dividing people. One analogy that I think of when he says this is it's a distraction to the conversations that matter. If you ever go to return something that you've used in the past, I bought this thing, right? And I want to return this, right? It's my wallet. I want to return this that I bought. GRC. I used it for 2 months, but now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go to GRC. He's the cashier, customer service person, etc. that I want to interact with. What do? Like, hey, dude, that's a cool fucking hat you got on, bro. What does that say? As I come up there, like, hey, man, I want to return this. You want to distract their mind so they're not thinking about the issue that is in front of them.
Any issue.
Propaganda does this. This is the mainstream media. They're paid to do this. This is our government. They're paid to do this. If you distract people from the actual issues, then he's going to return a wallet that I've used for 2 months without asking any questions, because I'm like, hey, we do this cool hat, man. You like the whatever brand that is, the Adidas, right? Yeah, did you know that Adidas actually stands for this thing? And I distract him so he's not thinking about the actual issues. It's the same thing as the propaganda that's happening today. People are thinking about, like, I don't like GRC because he has a mustache. I don't like that other dude.
No, they don't like Tate because he has a 30-day. No, this is a perfect example, right? And I just think about things logically. I don't know a damn thing about Andrew Tate. For real. For real. Like, other than I've seen him on everything and kind of know where his whereabouts on YouTube. He got arrested, and in their jurisdiction, they can hold you for 30 days. So you don't flee the country. That's the only reason they hold you for 30 days, because guys like them flee the country because they don't want to deal with the shit. But they're holding him in jail for a maximum of 30 days. That is the maximum, guys. And now everyone thinks he's, pegging little boys, literally. Like, that's just literally like where it goes, right? Even though he's the most public, right? He's the guy who's always got film in his house. He's the guy who just like jumps in the Lamborghini and goes talk to other people all over the place all the time.
Isn't it interesting, though? Similar to, say, how things are today, where if you're in public, say if you're at a workplace, you don't discuss certain topics. And then at home, you discuss what's actually going on, where mainstream media is like, oh, this person's a bad person. And yet in the real world where people interact, like social media, they're like, oh my God, he called this. He said they're going to put him in jail. Said all these things about Andrew Tate, all these, and it goes through all these thousands and thousands of clips about him interacting with women or saying positive things about this or this, that, and the other thing. You have the divide there between reality and what is being pushed out there by the people that want you distracted, right? Think about how easy it is to distract the cashier to return something they're not supposed to return, right? Now think about how easy it is to distract humans from paying attention to the things that are important in their life, like the relationships of the people that they love and care about, their finances, what's going on in the society as a whole that they can utilize to better learn or grow into the future.
Yeah. But guys like that, and they're kind of like guys like us too. It's just like scales different. It's like, what do? We tell everyone the truth. It cuts really hard because it is just true and everyone kind of knows it. So if you get a big enough voice and you figure out how to do that, you become a target if you haven't played your cards right. And you can play your cards right. People really do think you can't play your cards right. You just have to. You can freedom fight with a smile on your face. And we'll talk about Hex Token, for example. Hex Token's in a country. He's in Tasmania, I think. And he's like, oh yeah, it's pretty bad around here with like the westernized social like changes that are going on. But he don't let nothing affect him, and he still talks about decentralized finance every single day. So, but he does it with a smile on his face. He's a family man. You can tell. Like, he's no big deal. So you can also frame yourself, dude. If we talked about our wildest women journeys all day, do you think we would be a target? Probably, dude.
Well, we're just so early that we're not a target yet. In the future, we will be.
Yeah, but I think we're pretty calm, though. I think we're pretty calm. Like, I think we'll get away with it for a while before they come. Like, because we're just educational to a degree. We really don't. Yeah, we do. We do.
All it takes is to recognize that, oh, GRC and Sam tell people to think for themselves. Oh, GRC and Sam tell people to take self-custody of their crypto. We want people in CBDs or CB, whatever it is, right? The central bank digital currencies, where we get to control them, and they're telling them to put their currency in self-custody. We don't like that. They need to be shut down. It's going to happen. Like,
no, it's definitely going to happen, but I'm hoping internet scaling, that has to be their bigger issue at this point now, because it's just like, how many different platforms can I get 50 to 70 viewers on just from tweeting it out now? Probably every one. because the people care. So they, if you get people to care and you do it, I think a lot of people are doing this too. And I think a lot of good people, I think a lot of men are turning into men right now, but not most of them. Most of them are a little
we're watching this tsunami happen, right? Where like when a tsunami comes in, you get little waves or senses that it's happening in advance. And that's us. And that's several other people that have been doing this for years and years. Now, like there's a small portion of the grander population that is doing that. And they're waking up, and it's on a global scale. And this next iterative thing that's going to happen, massive amount of people are going to be laid off over the next couple of years. So incredible amount.
Oh my God. There won't even be, people think jobs are even real anymore. It just amazes me how you can make $100,000 a year, be told you're successful, give 40% of it to the government, and all your parents pat you on the back. And I'm like, if I make 60 grand this year, I'm going to be hurting. I'm not saying I couldn't. I mean, 60 grand even on cash. I mean, anyone could make it happen if they had to. But seriously, like that's not something to strive for. And that's what they're telling you success is. And they're telling you to waste 7 years in the process of getting to that point. And I told them when I was in second grade, F you. I'm not doing this shit. I'm not studying math. I don't care about your shit. It's like 100,000 hours of nothing. And then like you can learn exactly what you want to learn in a few honest weeks of studying. And now we have the internet. So you either stick with the times or not. But if you're just going to bow down to propaganda, you're going to get left behind because it's just not that enticing, the propaganda anymore. It doesn't even have the sting it used to. It's all diluted. They're all running out of viewers. They're all running out of purpose and meaning. And God's taking over. I do believe that. And I say that in a very open-ended way. I'm not talking about no specifics there. But the spirit within men to keep them alive starts to show. Because, guys, I don't have any options, bro. And, yeah, I'm comfortable and life's fine, and I'm not real stressed out about all that. But I don't have any options. I'm fighting. You know what I mean? Sam's fighting. Everyone's fighting. We have no backstops. We don't work for the government. And if you did, we get fired. So let's go back to Charles for a little bit. And he was getting right into the sauce. So let's get it. But young guys, I know I transitioned this whole thing. Young guys, pay attention. If you can figure this out before you're 20, you can just be way more successful than everyone.
And as a caveat, as we get into this, even if you don't perceive yourself as young and you think that you're too late, you're already 35, you're already 45, you're already 52, you're not too late. Start waking up. It's not just the young people, it's also you, right? You need to also step up.
Who are they? Oh, I guess if you're scared of dying from COVID, you're that. That's how you pick yourself. So if you're actually afraid right now that you're going to die from the COVID, that means that you're the person that Sam just mentioned. And that means you need to wake the fuck up. Okay, so sorry, I went into my educational like, how this channel's safe to go.
They've been installed in them. And then when you try to show them contrary facts or evidence, no burden of proof is capable of dissuading them. Okay, so there's a video of this guy murdering someone. I know it's made up. It's a deep fake. That's propaganda in a nutshell. We all suffer in some way from it. Where mass media is constructed in a way to do that because it gives people power. As long as we hate each other, we can't pay attention to the people running things. It's that simple. All these wedge issues that divide people. At the end of the day, we don't talk about energy. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about education. We don't talk about sustainability. We don't talk about the consequences of globalization. We don't talk about consent. We don't talk about rights, fundamental human rights, the preservation of them. We don't talk about rites of passage. We don't talk about the preservation of traditions that have carried humanity for thousands of years through. All of these things, we tend to just ignore because Orange Man bad or Biden is demented, or pick your favorite wedge issue. Why? Because propaganda is used to make us ignore those things. Now, there's other people who do think about those things, and they have very thought out opinions about what to do and where to go. And they get to make decisions about those things because we let them, because we're so distracted by the other things. Mass media has no point in informing you. CNN, Fox News, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, these things don't actually exist as journalistic organizations. There's no such thing as investigative journalism. There's no such thing as objective truth in journalism. They read all these books about history. Okay, movies coming out next year about the history of Ethereum. You think that's a true thing? No, it's just narrative. It's made up to do a purpose. Who these people are, and they get paid money, they get fame, they get success, they get power from being in these circumstances. So it's hard to stay positive because you see all the people that get caught up in it and they get absorbed into the propaganda. And you can mock them. You know, they sit in a car alone themselves with a mask on, 26 boosters, worried to death that some disease is going to kill them that's been floating around now for 3 years. And not really listening to anybody say anything to the contrary, deplatforming people. They get super angry about various things. You can't convince them otherwise. Trump won the election. It just happened. Everything else is a lie. No evidence to the contrary can be used to produce. So, you know, what do? You know, you just have empathy for them and sympathy for them as people. And there needs to be a great deprogramming. It happens organically, you know, because people subconsciously, the propaganda can't get deep enough into the brain that it completely overrides and brainwashes everything. There's always an easy tension that exists when a person's been propagandized between the perception of truth and the reality of truth, and they feel it and taste it. And they don't necessarily know how to vocalize it, but they just feel an unease, like they're standing on quicksand. And there in that gap is the opportunity for truth to grow. And counter philosophies are required for it to inoculate people from the mind viruses that we're given on a regular basis. It makes me sad more than anything else. Try to stay positive, but I'm just sad because we could do so much better. If we all just got along and worked together with the technology that we have, we really could deliver to the world a utopia. Instead, we hate each other.
Very, very
Where
powerful.
me and Sam come in and change the game, and a lot of other guys like me and Sam, obviously, just talking about us, but like we ain't stopping anytime soon.
On what Charles just finished with is something that I'm actually doing in my personal life, and I've implemented in the past probably 2 to 4 months. I get a bunch of different types of DMs for people who are trying to sell me shit, right? Or trying to get me to pay for shit in some fashion or whatever. And I think one thing that is truly valuable to me is continuing to learn and grow. And so in the past, I was maybe abrasive when I would talk with these people and or ignore them or delete them or just, you know, not be open at all to the conversations. And yet I've changed that over the last 2 to 4 months to think, how can this person wants to sell me something. I'm going to just listen to what they have to say. And then I'm able to learn, because clearly whatever they're selling, they're believing enough to reach out to me cold to try to sell me this thing. So there's something there that I can learn from. There's something there. There's a golden nugget that I can take, whether that's, hey, I'm definitely not going to do that, or I can implement this in what I'm already doing. And there's a very good book, Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben something. And he goes through on collaborating, right? So this way I'm able to allow them to affirm that they have value. They're listening to, I'm able to listen to what they have, ask questions from the expert or whatever it is that they're selling me, right? I'm able to learn from those things, or other people who reach out who want something from me, whether they're not necessarily selling me something, but they want something from me, right? And so in terms of cash, they might not sell me, but they want something else from me. to
It's usually how it is with me because I don't know. People usually don't want money from me. They want something. They want something. They want to either like chat about me publishing some info on their project, and I have to triple double check all that stuff. So that takes me hours, boy. Like, you think I'm going to publish something without looking at it 150 times? I just don't have that kind of limpy in me. I just can't do it because what if someone got wrecked on that? It would just be odd for me. I just don't. I like to sleep like a baby. I just love the baby sleep that comes with truth, transparency, and honesty, not backdoor deals for things you don't really care about right here. But sometimes those people come at you cold. They'll teach you something about whatever they're doing, and you're like, hey.
So in that, how do you take those interactions, right? Because you get them for the crypto stuff a lot, right? So how do you take those interactions and create more of a collaboration or an opportunity to learn and build a relationship? Doesn't mean you need to do business with them.
Well, you first need to realize if they're actually doing work or not. Like, that's it. Like, one thing is like, is this dude doing zero work and just like it's trying to get over on someone? Because if it's on the other side and they're actually working, generally there's good things to talk about there. And you know me, I'm the king of the reach out. I reach out to everyone, and no one answers me. Alex from Hedron probably messaged him 100 times in the last.
Before we got on the show to tell a little story, you were like, "Hey, we're going to cover this. We're going to cover this." UFC's telling me before we got on, right, where there's a green room, and he's like talking about Charles and how he's like, "Yeah, I went through and messaged Charles on this platform, on this platform, on this platform. I reached out to people that I knew that I thought knew or had a connection with Charles. I want to get Charles on the show because he's bringing value to the marketplace." So GFC is perpetually in the state of like
perpetually. It's my job. Like, that's how I do it, and that's how you get value. And I'm good at people not hating me. I try to frame myself as a nice person.
Yep.
Just like he's not good, bad, but at least he's nice. He's friendly. He's not hurting anyone. I don't ask you guys for shit. I've never asked for money. I've never begged for money. I've never forced or like really propagated that someone give me money for anything. And I also give money away all the time. So it does create an environment where people can trust you. It's about trust a lot of the time. And I don't trust a lot of these guys that get paid. They have 1,000 Patreon guys, and they're going to say whatever their Patreon guys want to say. I'm not saying every group's like that, but you know how it goes sometimes. They start to tend towards their wallets rather than tend towards their audience. And I've seen people ruin their career the first second they start it because they're like, I need to funnel as many humans into this exact room. And I'm like, dude, but what is going to happen after that? Like, you got to be at least like friendly. You got to chat with you got to provide value is what you got to do. So let's go into Hex token real quick. I dropped Hex tokens, and I want Sam to see this more than anyone. Actually, real quick, a funny clip before we get into Hex token. I did pull this clip up. Does anyone know Papa Boner? So he was in the Hex conference last night. He's the security guy in the Hex community, teaching everyone about the 25th word. Do you know the 25th word, the 13th word, Sam?
I know of it. I know it can be utilized in some unique ways, but I don't.
Well, I can explain it really fast. So basically, if you have a Trezor wallet, there's an option to have your seed words, right? And then there's an option for a password on the front end. Now, this isn't what we're talking about, the password on the front end. But we're talking about adding a variable word that you can put as many numbers and as many or as little as you'd like. It's a 13th word. It's a security measure that a lot of the guys that have gotten ripped real hard like to use because it's just anything extra, right? But it's not just a normal seed phrase, Sam. On top of that, it's a word that you chose. And so watch Papa Boner go into this for like 1 or 2 minutes. It's more of a funny, but he gets his point across. And he's a funny guy. And when I got hacked, I went live with him the day I got hacked.
So somebody could give GRC my entire seed phrase. Yeah. And if he doesn't have the 25th word, he can get into my seed phrase, open my wallet, and be like, oh, there's nothing here. Because of the 25th word, I can have a separate wallet that he needs that extra. He can have my entire seed phrase and all my money's safe. And that word, it would be challenging to remember 24 words, right? but it's not necessarily challenging to remember one word.
When you made it, it could be your word. It's your word. So it could be Stolt's first crypto coin exchange token. Like who's gonna click? Who's gonna make that? Who's gonna? How the hell would I come up with that? Sam could say, biggest biceps in the chat. Anything that rings in his head all the time or whatever. Like, and some words are stuck in your head forever. Like, so anyway, this is a hilarious example. So let's listen to this real quick. And I know I'm showing a lot of videos today, but there's been really good content the last few days.
Seed passphrases. Let's go to passphrases. So adding a passphrase onto a seed phrase, it's already 14 quadrivigintillion chance of or 1 in 14 quatur vigintillion would be your unique address. Let's add another crazy amount onto the mix. Now we're going to assume that there's 105 keys on your keyboard that you'll generally be using, but the ASCII standard actually has 256 keys or characters that are conceivably available, but the 255 max characters for the 8-bit standard. So 105 keys on your keyboard. You've got that, right? 105, the number 105, keep that in the back of your mind. Now, there are 100 slots that are available on your passphrase. So that means that you've got 105 to the 100th power unique, or this is the amount of math that you've got.
He's the man. Trust me. There is a little funny in this too. He's very smart, of course, but it's fun. This is the Hex conference, Sam. They're having a little fun. This is like 800 people watching this last night live. So remember, this was a good little party here.
Behind you when you create your own passphrase with 100 characters, and that equals to the number 13 with 171 zeros behind it. This is a number that I don't know, and probably I will never know. I will never be able to conceive of it because it breaks the human mind to think of how many things that is. And then I'm going to make it even better for you. If you combine a 24-word seed phrase, which is 2048 to the 23rd power, and you actually multiply that, because when you introduce the passphrase, you're multiplying the amounts together, you've got 100 example. A stream of consciousness.
All right, so he brings up his example, and this is the comedy part, guys. So it's
something off, and you're actually giving, carte blanche control of your wallet to the bad guys. So please keep that in mind. That's a talk for another day. And let me just leave you with two more ideas. One is, this is a 100-character passphrase. This is an example. A stream of consciousness being represented in a passphrase form in 100 characters sounds like this. And I'll read you mine. This is my passphrase. I'll share it with you right now. I just made it up this morning. It's 100 characters long, and it is valid. Stream of consciousness. My penis. Oh, my penis. How you doing down there? Just wanted to check in and see how you were. When I saw you last, you were asleep. That's a damn fine passphrase.
Oh, biceps in the chat. Was I the only one who thought he was not going to say that shit? He's like, stream of consciousness, and then he said his Peter was asleep.
Who was that guy?
Oh, jeez, Louise, that was hilarious.
Who was that guy?
That's Papa Boner. So he lives in Asia somewhere. He's a DeFi security degen, but he taught me about security when I got hacked, like day of, like live on stream, and they ripped me because I was ridiculously stupid. Ridiculously, but I really didn't have any reason to understand that information at the time. Like I did, but it was like, okay, there's more to this. And then I started streaming every day. So guys, we're going to transition over to, that was hilarious to me. I'm sorry, but we're going to transition over to Hex token. And Hex token, I mean, if you want information on the daily, very quick in your face, everything all the time on a constant stream of like just every piece of crypto information you could want, why not listen to him while you're making dinner at night? Because he's in a different time zone, and then he's in a different time zone like 13 hours back. So his videos are all at odd times, but you can catch it when you're doing like your sleep and whatever you do at nighttime. Because I don't, me at nighttime, I'll just be cooking, walking around, cleaning, kind of like getting ready for bed. And this is just like fully loaded alpha all the time. So I want Sam to hear this a little bit too, and like how maybe Sam can teach me how to stream better by listening to this, because Sam's never watched the guy probably, but and I think he's a great streamer. And I think guys like this really do change the world in a lot of ways with their friendly demeanor, open-mindedness, and happiness within their lives. I really do believe that. Like, he's so friendly and happy, and it just makes me happy every time I listen to him. But he gets right to the info. So let's get right into it.
Pulsechain, pretty awesome. Then, of course, we've got rumors from KDP that would get a testnet possibly early in a couple of weeks based on teams that they're associated with, talking to the Pulsechain dev team. And, of course, since that time, we've had a lot of little clues coming in. And stay tuned for the end of the live stream because we're going to talk about that. So that's kind of cool. So having Pulsechain testnet v3, and of course, that is possible. Will we get anything from Richard Hart on announcement? Maybe we'll get something general around it. I don't know what we'll get from there. We do know the team have been pretty active into the new year, and of course, we're going to talk about that towards the end of the live stream. So that's Pulsechain testnet v3. Maybe we could get that somewhere in the January, from the January the 9th there all the way through to March somewhere. Mate, who knows? We'll find out sooner the better. And I think most of the blues clues that we've been getting have kind of been on the earlier side. We'll see how that goes. Then, of course, we've got the Shanghai fork on in March, expected EIP 4895, and of course with ETH withdrawals there. So that's going to be pretty fun to see that. That's a necessary sort of finishing off of the Ethereum proof of stake. That needs to have the ETH withdrawals from the staking, and of course we're going to need Pulse withdrawals from Pulsechain as well. So will we be waiting for that to fork, or will we be slightly earlier than that and then just upgrade it ourselves? We'll find out. But at this stage, probably end up just have it going with that is my guess. That would lead us into the April period of time. Also, we've got V3 license expires on the 1st, I think it's the 1st of April. That's 2 years after it started. And of course, we'll be wanting that for the AMM bot harvesting. And of course, also for the utility of V3 asymmetric liquidity provision. And so that's what we'll be waiting for as well. So even though we may have an asymmetric estimation that we got confirmation in May last year, and maybe we wait for this as well. So it'll be interesting to see what time frame. In any case, if we assume all the later cases, like taking the latest worst case scenario in terms of time, possibly somewhere between March and May does seem likely, given all the things that are happening here for mainnet launch. Now, if it's earlier than that, great. But this is kind of where everything seems to probably fit there. And of course, we are going to expect more testing. Stay tuned for that at the end of the live stream. We'll be talking about all that sort of stuff. All right, so cool. That is kind of the play. We'll probably time it with the market, with the top of the Fed terminal rate there, specifically how inflation seems to have peaked and going down. We may end up having a double top inflation, but it's probably going to be further out in the future. And of course, I think we're going to get that pullback. We already had that rate come down from 9.1% from the headline inflation. That just seems to be keep going down. We got some good lower wage pressure coming out of the December results too. So this may bode well for the Fed not going too far with the rates. And of course, the SEP from the Fed was at 5.1%. So hopefully we'll end on the low side of that at 5%. And of course, maybe we might get the terminal rate at March and get that mini pivot, as they call it. The major pivot would be, of course, when they decide to move to expansionary policy. And I've got that pretty early at the moment. I got that 30 September, whereas a lot of the, pundits, commentators, and investment banks, something like that, have got it at the end of the year, pretty much December. And of course, looking for 24 for the big pivot. And of course, that's where we are. Now, we may get another rate rise if it does go to the 5.25. And of course, typically the Fed does overshoot and stay up too long. So that is typical behavior. We're kind of taking the more bullish side, given the fact that inflation seems to have peaked and coming down. And of course, we've just started to see that wage inflation coming down too. So it's kind of positive. So we'll see. That's kind of the play there. The market would get spooked though in February if we don't get this 25 basis points. We get 50. That would spook the market. So expect some pullback in the market there and the market might overreact too, particularly the stock market. The stock markets can't overreact anymore. How will the crypto going to just keep following the stock market when it has major pullbacks? We will see, because we don't have earnings season, but we are affected by sentiment, we are affected by risk off, and we are affected by the wealth and income effects. So we do have all that to face as well. So we'll see how we get on there at the stage. So that's kind of the play. And of course, the third final point is that we're going to have all the ecosystem AAA dApps like Power City, Liquid Loans, Fiat, the Coast, and all that sort of stuff, all with their products finished by this time. It's going to be glorious for our ecosystem. Now, I know Richard Hart talks about having this vertical integration with Pulsechain, and of course with Pulsex, and of course a Fiat on-ramp, off-ramp, and of course that being the base verticals plus potentially a wallet, and that would be pretty cool. But that's only going to get amplified majorly with the ecosystem, and we need it. So this is where I probably would part with Richard on this, and that is that we need this AAA DeFi, because that's really what people get engaged on a platform. And of course, that's where people are able to leverage up asset values as well with leverage. So that's probably where I depart there very, very strongly, in fact. And I think that's self-evident on the Ethereum blockchain.
So that was just a nice little example of Hex Token kind of running through his thoughts, his timeline, and just running through some of the most important info with the S&P, all of these things that people generally, we were talking about propaganda, they skip all the important information. How'd you feel about all that?
I like the way he does this chart. He's got the Fed on there. He's got potential time frames for things to happen. I think that's a very unique and interesting way to tell a story and capture the valid points in there in a visual format there. I like that. One of the things that I was thinking as he was going through there, I believe you mentioned April 5th is when the license for V3 comes out. So think about this for a second. If hypothetically
2 years after launch, that was directly 2 years after launch. So
think about this. Two things happening. If two of those things on his chart happen, I think that could be the starting point potentially. And maybe it could go 18 more months, but V3 launching, right? So you have V3 that is, as we mentioned earlier in the show, substantially better than V2. And when that license comes up, Sushi Swap, Pancake Swap, all these other swaps that are garbage in terms of their V2, not V3. V3 is substantially better than V2, are going to be implementing this, which is going to cause opportunity and excitement and a lot more people talking about these, because this is going to be tremendous. Because what you guys know by listening to, if you pay attention to any of the LP videos I put out, liquidity providing, you already understand concentrated liquidity if you're paying attention to my shit. And the rest of crypto globally is going to start understanding concentrated liquidity after this comes out.
Tell me how that looks because the audience isn't that mature. I'm not talking about this show. I'm talking about the people in DeFi. Do you think they're ready? Do you think these projects want that kind of transparency within the pools? Do you think there's any reason for some of these guys, that they're playing slick, not to go that direction? Or do you think it's just better and it's just, you got to go there right as soon as possible?
One of the things that I've been talking about for over 2 decades is transparency. Transparency helps things, right? So if you look at V2 versus V3, you're like, well, it's just your trading is different and you have concentrated liquidity, but you have more transparency. You're able to see the actual distribution of liquidity in the market at that exact moment. That is not possible with V2. So when you have players out there that are acting in a nefarious way, that are trying to manipulate people to extract value, money,
it's less transparent.
V2 is far less transparent. So,
and that makes 100% sense. It makes perfect sense.
V3 is going to be, and remember, V3 is going to happen on, I don't even have a list of them. There's boatloads of V2 copies. Pulsex is a copy. Sushi Swap, Pancake Swap, Quick Swap. Spooky Swap. Quick Swap actually just implemented the license. But so there's a boatload of V2 copies, and they're all going to be switching to V3. All of them.
And we'll do episodes on that. We'll do an episode on what happens when the other chains go V3, and that's actually a good thought to have. And I think I dropped tokens. Oh, hold on. Here's tokens, guys, coming in hot. Hex token on the link. Check it. There he is. Catch your boy. Sam, you were mentioning some things about Xen before we started. Do you remember what you were mentioning? It was about scaling. It was about what if, and I wrote in the title, Xen price action, which has been obviously going down. People are getting smart to it on Ethereum, which I didn't really anticipate. To be honest, I did not anticipate people getting smart to the minting. I just didn't. When I say smart to the minting, they're bulk minting for 90 days. They're figuring out the premium, and then they're shooting it out for the right amount of time, and they're selling it. And they're catching a 3 or a 4x every time. So people are catching on to that because the value per transaction is so expensive, and it makes sense to do 100 VMUs for $3 for that's $347. You get a 4x, that's $900, right? So people are catching on to that. But what does that do to the price, right? It sends it down faster. It matures where it should be. But one thing that people just cannot get in their effing heads that pisses me off is that the first person to enter the liquidity pool sets the price. Understand that there's no volume at that price. It's just where the chart sits for the first. So if somebody went in on that first transaction and set it to 100 zeros and one, the chart would look like it was going straight up. And I actually talked to Jack about this. And, it's a thought experiment. What if that? But keeping a project separate from any kind of founder or human interest is important to a degree as well. And that's kind of what he was like. The chart, yes, it gets eyeballs, but who's doing it? I don't like, it's DeFi, right?
I said that when it launched, and I said it on the show multiple times.
Yeah, explain to me, because I'm catching up on these concepts as we go, and then sometimes you figure that shit out before I do, and it kind of just glosses over for me. But now I'm obviously right where you were. What was your point on that, and any other points on Xen price action and Xen in general? Because I think Xen's going beautifully.
A couple of things on that. Okay, so if I launch a token, and it's not like the stock market where you can kind of just create that manipulation, and there's far too many pieces involved to set the price. In crypto, if I'm the first person to the table, I set the price. That is by setting the ratio. I've done this before in V3. You get to set the ratio of two tokens. If you have token A and token B as a ratio to the other, say if it was Xen relative to USDC, because this will be easy for people to mentally grasp because they can translate it to US dollar terms instead of a ratio. And you do, say, 8 Xen per dollar, that's 12.5 cents per Xen. So if I am there at launch and I want to make money and I'm going to put the first setup for liquidity in V3, or you could use V2, but it doesn't work the same. What happens is I'm going to set this up at, say, 2 Xen per dollar. So what happens? People go in and they're like, "Oh my God, do you see the ratio? Xen is 2 Xen per dollar. That's 50 cents each." Because this way I can sell my Xen for a ridiculously high price, right? So this way I set the price high, and then I just start to dump my shit. So anytime
or you just don't know what you're doing, which is rare for the first person in a liquidity pool not to know what they're flipping doing. But you could also just be like, "Oh shit!" Like you could put like nothing in there too. So at the same moment, you could put like $3 in there. The price chart will still show there. No real USD to flow through it until that's why the dramatic drops in charts. Not someone becoming a billionaire overnight. It's more so someone made probably a stupid move, or they knew what they were doing and they wanted to funnel a couple $1,000s out of there, period. That was either one or the other.
Yeah, and more than likely, in my opinion, like in the crypto space, people want to make money. So if I can set the price ridiculously high and dump on everybody's fucking head because they don't understand this shit, cool, that's what I'm going to do, right? Because once you understand like the nuance of all this stuff, you see this immediately and you understand like what's going on. Like you're like, hey, how somebody set up the pool in the beginning is going to dictate how the chart looks. Yes, that is 100% accurate, because you could set it up in the reverse, right?
And so, Sam, what would you have done? if you were the founder of Xen Crypto and it was coming out, you clearly have enough money to start a chart off without having to stress. What would you do?
With ERC20s, I believe they're all programmed to have 18 zeros, right? So if I started a or had the capacity to have 18 zeros, like 0.000 exactly up to 18. So if I was starting one out and I wanted the price performance to look good and people to pay closer attention to it and all those things, I would set up, and I was the first person to set up the pool. I would set it up so instead of 2 Xen per USDC, right? So 50 cents each, I would set it up as, 0.000000001 Xen, or like whatever that per USD. So effectively the price would be a tiny fraction, so that you need, 47 million Xen for 1 USD, because then the chart looks completely differently. Instead of going down and to the right, it's going to look like it's going up and to the left, or up and to the right. I'm sorry. And you get to manipulate that. Now, on the standpoint of Xen potential in the future, and I don't know, right? But we were having this thought experiment beforehand. Xen is growing very quickly across crypto on different chains. Will that continue? I don't know. If it does continue, which it's still early, right? But it is still continuing to grow at a very fast pace. If it does continue to grow at this pace, it is easily conceivable that this can hit 100 million users in crypto. So what happens at 100 million users? Well, then, does it make sense? At 100 million users, you've trained people to understand that Xen had a fair launch and abides by the crypto principles, right? Self-custody, no admin keys, immutable code, all these things, right? If you have 100 million users, then you can go and create your own blockchain of smart, intelligent people that understand self-custody, that understand how the design of something is. And you can drop it to all these people. Okay, perfect. This, I wouldn't be surprised. You can hear it here. If Jack continues on this trajectory, which is he capable of doing this? I'm sure he might be capable. Will it actually be able to play out in the marketplace? I don't know. If users are like, if the marketplace is showing him the growth and it continues to grow and he can get to 100 million users, he's going to come out with his own blockchain. I would bet a lot of money he's going to come out with this.
And he could also walk down the street and get assassinated by a burglar. So just remember, if you're hedging your whole entire life on shit like this is all speculation to a degree, but the metrics all look good for Xen. In my opinion, if for something so new, and the liquidity's finally drying up. I don't know who is dumping so much liquidity in there, but stop. If you are listening to me, I know you're not making that much anymore. I can see the numbers. They've dropped by 2/3. And so there's too much money for people to take. You don't have to, no big boys are coming in. Trump's not coming in anytime soon. So can we keep it at a range where it would make sense, where people would take slippage if they were dumping such a large amount? I think it's fair to say no one's put that kind of USDC in there yet. And I'm not saying that people are doing this. I'm saying that I have a feeling the people providing liquidity don't know why they're doing it. And it just feels like but maybe, I don't know too. Maybe they just want everyone to dump it for as long, when that critical mass kind of switches and everyone runs out. Everyone ran out. There's no one left except the lifers. And then it switches over. Plus, Jack's obviously extremely active. His telegrams are extremely more active than any other. And, it's interesting. It's a good scaling tool for everyone. And the Hexicans should use it as a scaling tool too. They're silly to tell everyone they're stupid, but you know how the Hexicans go. Instead of telling 100 million people to join them, they'll tell them they're all stupid. Very good job, Hexicans. Very, very. Sam, I'm going to jump off. You're going to talk about AI and blockchain, and I already have a thumbnail for the clip. So if you think you're going to miss it, we're going to have clips. I'm doing some clips for the show now, guys. So I need you guys to give some love on those. Even if you're just bored, jump over to those, check them out, because I'm trying to clip out the best moments from the show and put them on our YouTube. And that's why we're doing Sam at the end, 15 minutes, what he's been studying. And today we kind of got off on a rampage, and I'm going to do a Charles clip today with me and Sam in there. So try to get him on the show. So I'm going to jump off, guys. And I definitely think I'm coming on later. And I know I say that every time, but I got a couple people coming on, and I think me and Sam have a couple pre-recorded episodes we're going to do. Orca, if you're watching that Chia episode tonight, would be nice. And so I'm going to jump off. I'm going to play the little ring-a-ding-ding. Have an amazing day, guys. Crypto in the Morning. We're live every single day, 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm on Twitter all day long, trolling the world, teaching them about impermanent loss. As you can see, the famous little fun there. So I'm trying to find the transition.
I got it. Or
hold on, let me just do it so I can feel like I.
So, blockchain and AI, right? You've heard me talk about these. You've heard us talk about these many, many times. These two things are going to have a bigger impact than the Industrial Revolution. You're like, this guy's acting crazy. But that's because you don't understand these two pieces. AI, we'll start there. AI is going at a double exponential. So say you have an exponential like what's happening in crypto, where the number of users on is growing year over year at almost like a doubling until you reach saturation in the globe, right? So you're going from 300 million in 2021, now in 2022, when Crypto.com releases their State of the Nation report. I'll read through that and see what their estimates are. Right, my guess is somewhere around 450 million to around 700 million people are now in crypto, and then by the end of this year, 2023, that's going to double again, right? So you're going to have somewhere between 900 million and 1 billion people in crypto. Now, AI, on the other hand, you have computational power, which is the computer, right? Moore's law, the number of transistors per silicon piece is doubling every 24 months roughly, right? So you got that growth there. The other thing, if you don't know how AI works, is that AI, the algorithm, is more powerful the more data it has. So when you have AI that's trained on a certain amount of data, and that now you have a data set that grows, the AI can be trained better, right? Because it has more data. It's pretty simple there. Chat GPT, right, is actually based on something that launched in 2021, right? 2 years ago it launched. And it's based on GPT-3, which is the OpenAI language model that was released 2 years ago. Chat or GPT-4 is going to be launched soon, whether it's in 2023 or in 2024. Some people believe it's going to happen this year. I'm not sure. It's easily possible. But the data that's going to be used to train GPT-4 is over 100-fold greater than GPT-3. ChatGPT-3, if you guys are not familiar with it, is an incredible tool that democratizes content creation and democratizes the ability of one person to execute, right? The creativity of your ability to ask questions, to come up with unique or resourceful things that it can do for you is now just based upon how creative and resourceful you are at asking this AI to generate information for you. Now, let's get back to that double exponential. The AI has to be run on hardware, right? There has to be computers that actually process this because it has a massive amount of computations that it goes through every time you put something in there. And we're going to be going from
2021 to 2023, 2 years, what do we know about Moore's law is that the amount of transistors on there, or the computational power of the silicon, is doubling every 2 years. So we've got a doubling from 2021 to 2023 in the computational power, the hardware, the computer, the chips. And then we have the data that was used in GPT-3 was around 150 billion data points. 150 billion, right? That's a lot of data. The data that's going to be used for GPT-4 is over 100 trillion. 100 trillion. How many zeros is that? 15 zeros or something like that? This is a massive, massive increase because the computational power is going up and the data is going up. So we've got a double exponential that's happening with AI that people are not going to, they don't understand. They will literally not understand what is happening. And the skill that you need to be able to grasp, that you need to start understanding, that you need to start learning is how to communicate with the AI to get it to do anything you want to do. And I've related this back in other videos to Elton John. Elton John, a piano for Elton John is worth $1 billion because that tool he knows how to use in such a way that he can create $1 billion worth of value from that piano. Chat GPT or the AI behind that is going to be the same thing for the world. And if you understand how to use that to get value from it, it's not going to be like the piano, right? Where only a tiny percentage of the world's population can understand how to use the tool that is a piano to generate $1 billion, right? There's probably only a handful of people who could do that. It's going to be way more like Google Ads in 2005, where millions of people understood how to use Google Ads to generate billions and billions and billions of dollars of sales for themselves or value for their enterprise or for a cause, right? But this isn't going to be like the piano where 10 people can do this. This isn't going to be like Google where you have tens of thousands or millions of people using Google ads or Facebook ads to generate value, right? In 2005 or 2012 with Facebook. This is going to be the entire planet has the capacity to do this. True abundance, right? Think about that for a second. The possibilities are completely endless. Instead of thinking about XYZ, you want this thing to happen or this thing to happen. This in a very short period of time is going to be like, I need a marketing strategy for TikTok that is implemented tomorrow that incorporates things around plumbing and XYZ, and the AI creates it, implements it, starts posting content for you and generating leads for you today. To have the possibility for the AI to just do the whole entire thing for you is coming. And if you don't understand how to use it, you're going to get left behind. And that also is similar to the blockchain piece of things, which we already understand is sucking all of legacy into blockchain. All legacy dollars, euros, Canadian dollars, the Australian dollar, all fiat currency is going to be going into crypto. So those two things combined are going to have a bigger effect than the Industrial Revolution. And that was massive. Love to hear what your thoughts are on this. What did we miss? What did I miss around this topic? You're like, is this too crazy? You think this isn't going to happen? Watch. Why do you think I'm wrong? Or why do you think I'm right? Love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Don't forget to stay tuned for tomorrow's show at 11 a.m. EST. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check out the links down below. Jump over to Twitter, say what's good, Instagram, TikTok, etc. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. Peace.
You already know what time it is.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting on phone.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting these hours.
Crypto in the morning.
Waiting to take
I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some hedge, I'm making it rain. Play me some maxi and that's just in case. GymRatCrypto sent me to show you the way.